And roll call. We have with us tonight Karen, Sarah, Daryl, Chris, and Anthony as an alternate will elevate, and Chris. Oh, and Larry. Beg your pardon. Right. So we'll alternate. We'll elevate Chris as well. All right. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes of June 13th? It was a nice short meeting. It was a good meeting. Any corrections or revisions? Would someone like to make a proposal that we pass the minutes?
I'll make a motion. Oh, there goes Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
Over to you, Karen.
And Karen, is that? Oh, Daryl. Okay. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes June 13th, signify by raising your hand. All right. Minutes recorded. So public communications, oral. Is there anyone here tonight that would like to add to the agenda or speak? This is the segment that we ask. All right, hearing none, let's move on to old business.
Excuse me, Wes, I just want to remind you that there's 2 ads to the agenda as well tonight.
Oh, yes. Yeah. So we have, Ty, help me out here.
It's a 6B1 application 1724C for Don Lawson, and then 9C for correspondence regarding Kenmont Kenwood.
Right. All right, do I hear that motion?
I make a motion to add the agenda items as listed previously.
Yep. Somebody care to second that?
I'll second that, Wes.
Thank you, Karen. All right, all in favor? Okay, we'll add those in their appropriate positions. All right, 5B, application 0624C, Guy Murray, 21 Bridge Street. They have asked for an extension on this application till the next regular meeting. This is, they do not have sewer commission approval, nor the fire marshal has signed off on this. So we can't really sign off on anything until we get those approvals. They have just that time that we cannot extend it any further than the next meeting. So at that point, we'll have to deny the proposal without prejudice, and then move on. If they want to reapply, they can reapply. But we'll see what they come back with. And Ty, you think that they are consciously working on it?
Yeah, they have a professional now in place, so I believe they're working with them to get the sewer commission approval. And as you might know, we have a new fire marshal now, and he's circling back. I think there's some questions with the apartments. So because it's an overall site plan approval, we want to make sure that the fire marshal is totally on board before the zoning commission approves.
Right.
And I should just note that I have had some, questions about enforcement and lack of enforcement, I guess, on it. So hopefully, they'll be able to get it together for next month for an approval.
Right. So have they made any improvements on their site plan in terms of parking and their arrangement with parking?
Yeah, so I mean, they submitted. Guy actually was the one who worked on the parking plan last month. It was in the file. So, I mean, I thought it was satisfactory, but of course you guys have to take a look at it and see if you have any questions. But I think what he had submitted was generally what you were asking for.
All right. All right, so we'll see what they come back with for next meeting. So for now, do I hear a motion to table this application?
I'd like to say something, Wes.
Yes.
I wasn't here last month, but
Yep.
are we setting a precedent that we don't want to be setting? I mean, is this something, or it just seems that we're being very lenient with them?
In terms of not issuing a cease and desist?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is this something we do for anybody else?
Well, they have, I kind of felt that way before they came in last meeting, and they had hired a professional to get through their sewer commission. I was hopeful that we could hear something tonight. So I think we hold on for another month, and at that point, we'll certainly take that up because something does need to happen.
Am I the only one that feels this way? Apparently. Okay.
No, I kind of feel the same way. I feel that these guys have been a little ignorant, and they're not really stepping up and doing what they're supposed to be doing. We want to see the business in town. We want to see. I mean, I actually like their business platform. I'm a Motorhead guy too. So, but I'm not happy that they're basically running an illegal business in the town.
They are.
Does anyone have any insight to it? And I know they run multiple businesses. Is this something unique to Kent, or is this something that's occurred with their other businesses?
So after one of the meetings, they had mentioned, we had talked about, the state approval that they don't have. And they said that, it was their opinion because they had approval. I think it was in Sharon that it was okay, which is not true. You have to do it in every individual town. But the fire marshal did get wind of that, who at the time was Stan, and he is the building official in Sharon. And he actually stepped up and said they don't have approval in that town either. So it's two towns that they're operating in that apparently they don't have state approval. And then they may have an additional, I think, one closer to the water. I don't know if it's Westport or somewhere else, but every town you have to get separate approval for both locational for the state and then any zoning, building, or fire marshal approval.
So then it is the understanding then that we have now that they're operating illegally without a license, which is I guess a felony in the state of Connecticut. Do we have to acknowledge that?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
If they're operating without a valid license in the state, I mean,
Well, for our town, they don't have the locational approval. Yes, they don't have a license to operate in Kent.
But is does that elevate them to a state level felony, or is that just they don't have a license? I'm not familiar with the state law on that.
Yeah, so I mean, we certainly could reach out to the state and talk to them about that. I mean, at this, it's been a long stretch, and each month we keep hoping that they're just going to come in and come into conformance and resolve the issue. So there's got to be some kind of cutoff line somewhere. I mean, I don't know whether it be next month or this month, but at some point, I think that, I had another similar business reach out and say, hey, I had to go through all these problems and issues and resolve it to operate, why don't they? And then I had somebody else come into the office and say that generally the same thing, a member of the public saying, why hasn't there been any enforcement action?
I think what I'm trying to understand is, we do, I think as commissioners here, we are very supportive of businesses in town. So we want to try to as much as we can. And we understand too that they had to go through, both the fire marshal with the sewer commission back to us, and it's been a process for them. I think we're trying to understand here a little bit more is this just a sort of a one-off scenario with this town, or is this a scenario where they have sort of done this multiple times too? And I think we just want to understand them as operators too, and whether they're operating in good faith and trying to go through this process, or whether they have a history of doing this with other towns, which we
Seems
may
like
not
it
be
might
able to
be,
answer here.
it seems
So.
like it might be occurring in another town as well, but I don't know for sure.
Ty, what happens if there's some kind of accident there, or fire or travesty, that are we held liable as a
No, I mean,
commission?
you didn't give them a permit to operate. So I mean, I think you would be more, if you actually, I mean, they're operating without permits, they're not supposed to be operating. So I mean, you can't be compelled to enforce. Um, so I mean, it's really up to, I mean, I'm I'm happy to do a cease and desist if that's the commission's pleasure. Like I said, it's like every month it seems like there's such great hope that they're gonna just come in and wrap it up, that you'd hate to shut them down, and then they were a week away from being compliant. But it's been
Yeah,
going on a long time.
it's been going on, and I, like Chris, I love the idea of the business. I've known Jason for a long time, but I kind of feel enough is enough. I don't think it's fair, especially if other people are coming into you to complain. I
Right.
think we have to pay attention to that.
Well, I think we are paying attention, and they are actively seeking an approval for a permit, and so I think we have to take that at its face value. Um, um, After this next month, if they have not followed through, then that's it. Then they're in condition where we do submit a cease and desist, because they no longer have an application in front of us.
I mean, I absolutely did make it clear to them that they can't, by statute, they cannot go any further with extensions, because, you have to be very careful with site plan approvals. If you don't approve within the statutory guidelines, it's an automatic approval. So there's no fooling around with next month. It has to be, if you don't have the information that you need, you absolutely have to deny it for lack of information. And then they can come back later. But at that point, the line has to be drawn.
So do you step in at that point and say that it's cease and desist?
I mean, personally, I think that would be the way to go, but if you
So
want to
their
do it
extension
sooner,
goes to what date now? It goes to 8/8?
right, your next meeting.
Hi, would it be appropriate for us as a commission to send them a letter, registered letter or whatever? I'm sure you've told them all this. I know you have. But could we go on record and send them an actual notice or memo that this is our position, that they need to clear this up by the next meeting, or the property will not be in operation?
I will do that.
That
Yeah,
you'll
great idea.
file a cease and dismiss order.
Yeah, I
And
think that's appropriate. Yeah.
so that, so we have it on our, in our record that we've done this, and they've been given plenty of time.
I will get that out to them tomorrow.
That would be great. Thank you.
Larry, were you trying to say something? You're on mute.
No,
No.
I agree with the course of action here.
I was asking Ty who that letter will go to.
It actually will have to go to Guy. I mean, I can copy them on it, but he's the property owner.
All right, so do we hear a motion to table this until next meeting?
I make a motion to table this until the next meeting.
Thank you, Chris.
Second.
Thanks, Daryl. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. All right, so let's hope that they come through. All right, moving on to application 6A1. Abigail, this is a public hearing, so let me read the public notice into the record. Town of Kent Planning and Zoning Commission shall hold a public hearing by a Zoom meeting on Thursday, July 11th, 2024, beginning at 7 o'clock to discuss and possibly act on application 15-24SP, 16-24C, Abigail Spaeth, 255 Kent Road, map 5, block 12, lot 139. A greenhouse accessory structure in a front yard per our section 9130.1. Any corresponding documentation will be attached to the agenda and will be found on the town's website. At this hearing, persons may participate and be heard. Signed, Wesley Wyatt, Chairman. Okay. Is Abigail here to say some words on this? Do we know if anybody's here?
He's here. He's under Anatolia.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
One second.
Oh.
Okay, sorry. I'm with my children now. So yes, I wanted to do a greenhouse / shed near my front yard so I could safely get my kids off the bus stop and in the front yard, just because the house is set back quite some ways from Route 7. So do you have any specific questions?
Well, I see your site plan, and it's very nicely rendered. And I know the location; it is quite set back. But this is a regulation of 100 feet that we can't put an accessory structure within 100 feet of the front property line without a special permit.
Okay.
And this is a public hearing.
Okay.
Now, is there a reason that you can't move it 22 feet towards the house so that you don't have a situation here?
I think I needed to pull the permit to put it in the front of the house because my house is set back, so I have a huge front yard and a small backyard. I would like it to be there just because I want to do more agricultural things in the future, and it's just the location is ideal. But I guess if you guys vote against it, I could rethink it maybe. But it just it would look nicer there the way the structure is with the fences and more out of view because the green giants are there blocking view from Route 7 and my other neighbors. So there's no view of it.
No, I can appreciate it. It's well screened. I don't think there's an issue here. But there is quite a 22 feet in the distance to the house is pretty minor. It seems to me, and unless there's a good reason that you couldn't.
Yeah, there's a gate there already. I was thinking of putting it adjacent to the gate just from the way of a design point of view. But I guess I could move it 22 feet. It just it would look more weird from the road if you can see it, but you can't really see it because of the green giants. I just kind of the way it looks seems more aesthetic in that spot. I didn't know about this 22 feet thing until
Well, it's
just
it's
now.
100 feet, and you um, uh, have indicated that the setback to the greenhouse is 78 feet. So that's why.
Okay.
And
Okay. So
it's just
100
the
feet is
difference.
a different regulation?
No, this is why we're here tonight.
Oh, I thought it was for structures in front of the house.
Well, if it's beyond 100 feet, then it's not an issue.
Oh, I didn't know that. I mean, if you guys, I like it where it is on the map aesthetically. But I mean, so I could do it anyways, 20 feet and not do this? 20 feet further to my house?
If it's pulled back beyond 100 feet from the front property line, then it's not an issue, right, Ty?
Right. I mean, it was my understanding that's where, she wanted it to
No,
be.
no,
Yeah.
I can agree.
For aesthetic reasons and for whatever else the design of her front yard
Yeah,
is.
I do appreciate that, and I can't tell from the site plan if there's. I guess the fence that's indicated is an existing fence, and I can see that. But this is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this? All right, hearing none. How do other commissioners feel on this?
I think that Abigail needs to understand that she could put it where she wants it if she gets a special permit, correct?
Oh, yes.
So she needs to understand how that works. So if she wants to keep it in that location as a design aspect and she really likes that location, then she needs to get a special permit. We need to let her or help her understand what that means.
That's why she's here. That's what we're here for.
She's here because of that. So she's applied for a special permit.
She applied for a special permit because she wants it in that place. Yes.
Yeah, this is what we're here for.
Okay.
Right.
All right. But what Wes is trying to tell you is that if you move it back to 22 feet, so if it's 100 feet from the road to the shed, then you don't need the special permit.
Okay. I would like to do the special permit, and if it's voted against, then I will I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Does that make sense? So I guess it's up to whoever's voting. This is my first public hearing. I also want it to be a little bit closer to the road because to get my kids off the bus stop. I hope to do like cutting and potting stuff and in the shed, in the little greenhouse structure, and do things while I wait for the kids to get off the bus stop because it's so cold and I don't want to go down there with my car every morning and night. Does that make sense?
Well, it does. The 22 feet on an exterior situation is a very de minimis dimension. It's not much. It's not far.
Okay. I guess I could think about that, but since we're here, I mean, I would like to see about pulling the asking permission, if that makes sense.
All right. So how do other commissioners feel on this? I mean, I think it's well screened. It's a technical point in a way. I mean, that it's really the screening aspect that is important to this regulation.
And the Green Giants do cover it. Actually, if it's closer to the Green Giants, it's covered more than if that makes sense. Then if it's further away, it's covered less by the way the sight line is because my house is on a hill. Does that make sense? The Green Giants would have to be taller if it's further up the hill.
But so the grade is not that steep.
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it 20 feet. I would have to measure it out. I didn't know about the 20 feet to move until now. So I haven't, but I like where I designed it. So from aesthetic point of view.
Abigail, can you answer one question? I've got it no additional lighting is being proposed?
No, it's just
is
going to
the
be like a
plan?
potting shed. I just kind of want it. I mean, there's not going to be lighting because it's for me to use during the day. I kind of want to use it to get my kids off and on the school bus. And, you know, it's like they're young and they're going to do this next year. So it's like years of school bus, you know, and, you know, nice. I want to do plants while I do the school bus. So there's no reason for me to be out there at night, if that makes sense.
That does.
So no lighting. It's a potting shed.
I like the way it sits in the curve of the driveway.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's kind of very New England. It's going to be, you know, kind of goes with, there's cast iron fence already. It will match that and kind of really look nice, even though no one's going to see it because of the Green Giants.
What kind of roofing material is this?
Well, I'm probably going to use like those clear roofs. They look like glass, but they're actually like what you use for a greenhouse roofs. So it's going to be all glass.
Is that highly reflective?
No, it's, what is it called? Poly, whatever. It shouldn't be reflective.
And then the drawing that you have of the shed itself, it looks like it's mostly like small windows.
Yeah, I'm going to be using like New England windows and window panes. I have them already. I've been gathering them for years. So this is something I've been, you know, fantasizing for a long time. So it's a lot of thought on
Will
it.
you be providing a pathway from the shed to the road as well for your children?
No, because they can go up the driveway. I just, you know, our house is set far back from Route 7, so I kind of just want to be a little physically there doing something just to be closer when they get off. And, you know, I want to do more agricultural things, you know, with cuttings and different, you know, in the future. So.
So this is a public hearing, and the purpose of that is that if and it's notified in the paper that if there are any members of the public that have opposition to this, that they should be heard on this. So I don't on the surface have any issue with this. I think the dimensions are they could be accomplished, but and my view is that it's de minimis, and I don't have a strong opinion on this. Anyone else?
But I don't understand where the hardship is.
What does that mean?
This Anne is not an appeal like the zoning board of appeals, which requires a hardship. This is an objective presentation.
She's just
I
looking
know,
for.
but there are other options for her to operate within the regulations.
That's the first thing I brought up. That's right.
Exactly.
Anyone else?
What's the slope like where at the location of the greenhouse?
I would like to put it, it's kind of flat. That's what I'm saying. The Green Giants are kind of going to cover it a little bit more. If I move it 20 feet, it kind of slopes up. That's when it kind of slopes up to the house, if that makes sense. So,
well, if the grade were 10%, which is not much, it would only be 2 feet. So it's not a huge dimension.
Yeah, I guess I didn't, yeah. Honestly, I didn't know about the 100-foot thing. I thought it was just, I had to do this for the, to do the appeal for just the front of the house. You know, putting something in the front of the house. The 100 feet thing I wasn't fully aware of, but I kind of really put a lot of thought into the spot it's going. So I just think it's kind of better for for everyone, that's that location, just because it's shielding it more in that location than if it was 20 feet. You could probably see it a little bit with the roof or whatever in the front, where the green giants are covering it more closer to the road, a little closer to the road.
So Ty, our old regulations just did not allow any structures in front of the main building other than a garage, correct? And when we rewrote our regulations, we specifically created a special permit process to allow it for buildings that were less than 100 feet.
So in my staff report, I cited both of the current regulations, which actually kind of they don't conflict, but one's more clear than the other. So 3234 says permitted by special permit with a public hearing, an accessory building structure or use located in an area between a principal building and a public street, if such accessory building structure or use is located less than 100 feet from the front line. And in 9131, it says accessory structures shall not be located in the front yard, i.e. closer to the street than the principal dwelling unless they are approved by the commission by special permit. So both of those regulations exist together. So wait, Donna's on, so she may not have some better insight onto this.
Yeah, Daryl, I think you were right. Yeah, we used to, it never was an issue before. And then when we rewrote the regulations with Glenn, we decided to do that because we were also looking about the possibility of being able to put accessory dwelling units and things like that in the village center, in the residential R1 and R2. And that's when they said, you know what, we're okay to allow them, but we're giving you a buffer of 100 feet. So I think that's where the change came in. So they changed it for VR1, VR2, and then they changed it for the rural district as well.
But they actually coexist right now. The two regulations, one cites 100 foot and one doesn't. But regardless, they both comment on accessory structures in front of the primary.
Right. So, I mean, I think we've allowed certainly a very legitimate path for something like this, to exist. And obviously, this is a fairly minimal structure with an appropriate use. So I don't have a huge issue with it. And I think it's, properly taking advantage of the special permit.
I think the only time you guys ever used it was when you approved that swimming pool in front of the house up on 341, just after Justin Money's house and the corner of South Road.
Actually, John Johnson did a shed.
And that's the next one.
Recently. Yeah, I mean, I remember that one. I feel like there's been others as well.
I think there has been.
You guys usually talk about, screening. That's usually your main concern, is that it's screened from the road. But I did do the staff report. I went through, item by item with regard to the requirements for a special permit. And yeah, so I mean, my only questions or comments or concerns was that, the structure as it relates to the roadway, and determine whether enough, landscape was in place, and then it would blend in with it. It does appear to me like there's enough, shielding by the mature shrubs. And then also there's a row of less mature shrubs that will be, coming in, and really you're never going to see inside that property at all.
Abigail, I suppose I have a question for you too, is if the other intention for this is to use it as a greenhouse, would it be better to have it further back? So that rainbow
towel. I'm sorry, what?
Would it be better to have it further back so that it's not as shaded? So that it's actually getting
well, the green giants are not like, they don't shade. They don't, the way they grow is to screen. So like you plant a green giant to screen, but it doesn't shade. So it's just a way to block things. It had like when you have something that shades, like a planting, you want like for shade, you want an umbrella effect. Green giants are like a pillar. So they block, they don't really shade. Does that make sense? So
It
the
does.
green giant,
Yeah,
they won't
I
be,
just
they don't do
understand
any
if
shading.
it's-
They
Yeah.
do blocking. I mean, they do minor shading, but like if you planted like a pine, for example, that tends to lose its lower branches and eventually it will shade because it has its upper branches and then the lower branches kind of tend to die when it gets really big. Does that make sense? So a
It does.
pine is an evergreen, but that will be more of a shading thing than a green giant, which is very specifically put into for coverage.
And did you provide the northeast west on the drawing?
It's
Double
at
check.
the very
Yes.
top. Yes, I
Okay.
had to look for it too.
I'm
So,
sorry.
I just wanted to make sure you were getting sufficient sun for it if you were indeed the
so,
greenhouse.
so
Yeah,
the green
it's enough
giants
sun for
are
a
west
greenhouse.
of the greenhouse. So this would only block the western sun.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be it's definitely wouldn't be shaded by the green giants. So, I mean, it's a nice spot for a greenhouse, and I do hope to do more with, you know, agriculture in the future. So that would be a nice thing for me to do.
Just one thing to think of as the use of this changes from, servicing the children to a more agricultural purpose. Certainly, if this was located further back in the property and didn't require a special permit, you might have more latitude in terms of what you do in the future, specifically lighting if you're going to be raising seedlings. Right now, this would be approved as a special permit without lighting and, not a lot of options for modification without coming back to us. And,
Well,
certainly if this was lit in the future, we
we
might think differently.
well,
might want to think about change of use later on too. So that's something we
well,
would.
you might see me again because if I would like to do another greenhouse, which is called, I think, a Walampi, and that I would like electrical in the future. That is like a greenhouse inside the earth, completely hidden. And that one I would like to do more. This is like a kind of, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I would like to do more in the future with agriculture, but this I have plans for this to be what it is, if that makes sense, without lighting.
So, if we close the public hearing, if there's more information to be gained, then we should keep the public hearing open, but if not, we could close it. There are waivers that will have to be gained. I didn't see any one that I would have a problem with on the site plan. And again, hearing no public voices on this, I think we could close the public hearing and then discuss it.
Okay.
Commissioners?
I agree with you, Wes. I think we can close the public hearing. I'll make a motion that we officially close this public hearing.
I'll second.
Thanks. All in favor? Okay. So we'll move on then to I guess the waivers. If we could get a motion to approve the waivers, that's three.
Oh, God.
I'm sorry.
No.
3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. We hear a motion on that?
I make a motion to approve the waivers that you just listed.
What, baby? Okay.
I'll
I
second.
said I make a motion to approve the waivers that you just listed.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor of approving the waivers? All right, so let's move on to a discussion on this. Again, you know, we have approved these in the past. They were closer, matter of fact, a lot closer than to the front property line than this. It is well screened. On the surface, I don't have an issue, but that's only my feeling. Sarah, what do you think?
I don't necessarily have a difficulty with this. I think it's within regulation and the way that we've devised both of the alternatives here. I would suggest that Abigail, because you're thinking about further uses of all of this too, and coming back before the commission, that, you know, just sort of thinking about the being prepared for coming back within regulation or to go through the special permitting process again. And making sure that you're fully aligned with that scenario and understand that process.
Daryl, how about you?
You know, it's 78 feet from the road. So, I mean, I think it's, you know, towards the upper end of, you know, what we might consider still being allowed. So if it was closer, I think that obviously the considerations would be greater. You know, I think this process that we've gone through has been very helpful, but, you know, it's a small structure, 78 feet from the road that's screened. I don't see that it's a problem granting a special permit.
And Larry, I thought your comment on the way it's positioned almost as a radius point on that driveway does make design sense. So I mean, there's certain design element about this.
And a special permit is not a precedent after all. I mean, it still doesn't allow everybody else on the road.
No, this is a site-specific application. This does not apply to anyone else but this application. Anthony, what do you think?
I agree with the statements about location to the driveway. You know, it fits in, kind of nestled in there. I think it does fit well with the other improvements on the property.
Okay, Karen.
I'm okay with it. I think that's why we have special permit process. Right. And I don't think this has a huge impact on anything much. So I think it's okay to go ahead and approve.
Chris, what say you?
I know the property. It's actually, she's relatively my neighbor. She lives on a corner. You know, it's not an easily seen property from the road. You'd have to be kind of focused on it as you were driving around the corner. Most people aren't. Right. She's got a lot of screening there. The distance is, I mean, 78 feet is pretty far back. I don't have a problem with it.
All right, so hearing a consensus, would somebody like to make a motion for approval?
Wes, did we hear from Ann too? Just opinion there.
Well, Ann came
I'm
in.
an alternate.
We didn't elevator on this yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve application 15-24SP and 16-24C, Abigail Spath, 255 Kent Road, map 5, block 12, lot 139, greenhouse accessory structure in front yard for 9130.1 and 3234.
I second.
Thank you, sir. All right, any further discussion on this? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay, motion pass. Okay, Abigail. All right, so let's move on. So we have the one Horizon Line application. That's the one we added to the agenda. Is there someone here that wanted to present that? That's at 101 Macedonia Road.
Yes, we're here for questions.
Yes, how are you?
Don Lawson with my wife, Meg Curry. We're the applicants.
Excellent. And what is it that you're proposing to do?
On the property, we're looking to raise the roof of the cottage, the small house that's there, approximately 4 feet, and put a shed dormer out the back of it. And then a little bit farther down the driveway, add a barn, which would be a 2-car garage below and storage up above.
Right. Fortunately, it's behind the house.
It's behind the front line, correct.
Okay. Right. All right. So I actually just went out there, and I wouldn't have seen the house unless I turned in the driveway.
Yep.
And I did. And the house is quite elevated. It's really up against the slope itself. It does not break the horizon line.
No.
So without again driving in the driveway, I never would have noticed this house. 4 feet is not a great dimension. Any trees that you'd be taking down?
There's one tree where the barn is going to go in. It's a straight evergreen of some kind, maybe an aromatic cedar. And that's the only one. It's about a 13-inch diameter.
Right. But the lot is heavily wooded. So
yes, behind the house, it's all wooded all the way up the mountain.
Right. Anyone else have any comment on this property?
I would say I've driven by this most of my life, and it is a very difficult piece of property to see from the road, let alone the horizon line. So and it's well shaded and blocked in.
Right. And Daryl, I realize that it's within the horizon line zone, but certainly this house does not break a plane or even close to breaking a plane of the horizon. So
yeah, if you look at the horizon line belt there, it's kind of curious because this is sort of near the bottom edge of the horizon line zone, which is less critical, but there's also a notch on the overlay there. So it's almost like the house does sit right within that notch that's not actually in the overlay. So even though the property has portions of it in the horizon line zone, the house is almost situated to not have triggered it on its own. So I don't think it's an issue.
Don, could you tell us the year on the house? Because it does look like it is in use of some critical upgrades here.
1939 was the original.
Was there ever a barn or garage on the property previously?
Not that we know of. Unfortunately, there were 0 records of any kind for this house when we purchased it. And we've never seen or heard anything about that. We could go back to the person we bought it from grew up in the house, so she's been there since probably, I think he bought it in 1973, so she's been there since then. But to the best of my knowledge, there was never an outbuilding.
Okay, just curious.
So I see indications for a septic area in front of the house. You're not proposing to change the septic.
No, we were doing the upgrade if necessary that the health department wanted, and that is it's waiting approval, but that's in place. There was enough space and good soil to do that.
So is that a B100A test?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, anyone else? I think this is again, I mean, I'm glad we have this regulation in place. It does give us the opportunity to review projects, and this is really what it's all about. This to me has really no impact at all to the Horizon line.
Ty, I do see in your staff notes just a confirmation on lighting and things, and could we get some updates on that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually did talk to Mr. Lawson today, and he confirmed that it would be only the traditional lighting for safety, purposes that would be utilized. That is, within the zoning regulations. We talked about, downlit and, what we have there and for lighting that can be improved.
All right. Somebody would like to make a motion that we approve this application? Daryl, you're on mute.
I make a motion that we approve application 17-24C. Don and Lawson, Meg Curry, 181 South Kent Road, Gaylordsville, Connecticut, 06755. That is their, looking at the permit address. This is for 101 Macedonia Road, Kent, Connecticut, 06757. Map 3, Block 3, Lot 18.
All right. Sarah, did you? Yeah. Karen?
I'll second the motion.
Terrific. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Okay, Don.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Meg. All right. So next on the agenda is staff report.
Yeah, so I do have a couple things this time around. I think that some of you might have noticed that 45 on Main is having like a carnival event this weekend. So they did fill out a special event permit. They came in with a sketched site plan. It's been reviewed by the fire marshal and approved. It's also been reviewed by the health department. The health department has no issues with it. It's business as usual. They haven't had any special, this is their one for the year. So I was going to go ahead and approve it, but I just figured since the meeting is, and I'd let you guys know about it as well. It came to us a little bit late. I just got it this week. So, ideally we would get something like that earlier, but I think that, now they're aware of the process. So I'm kind of educating the public on these things. And then if everybody's good with that, then also on 45 on Main, I received a complaint regarding the, what do you call them, those lights that, there's a name for them, the lights that hang down, they're stretched across the front there. They're kind of decorative. Apparently they've been, they're left on all night long. So somebody came in and, complained about that. And I reached out to them, and they explained that they utilize them for safety purposes. We did discuss, again, our lights that are in the regulations that would allow for, safety lighting. But then they brought up the point that other businesses and towns do have similar lights that they use. I guess, maybe it's the Kingsley's or the Villager, in between an alleyway, there's those lights and other stuff. So the regulations don't speak to those at all. They're, kind of a decorative thing. I mean, when you go down Main Street, I guess, there's that other building that's kind of lined with lights that are almost like Christmas lights. So anyways, I just kind of told them to put a pin in it. I think that they've had some concerns with break-ins and different things. So I didn't want them to go dark and have something happen. So I figured I'd see what you guys said. I mean, if you're good with lights like that and have no issue with them staying on all night, or, if we need to work on.
So is it like a festoon lighting? Is it a like a string of lights that's like LEDs? There's no shroud. It's just a bulb kind of.
The bulb. Yeah, it's a string of bulbs.
So those are supposed to be like temporary lights anyway, right? I mean, that's not even
yeah,
like
they're
it.
like strung over like picnic tables and stuff like that. But the thing is, the person who had complained said that they're on all night long.
So is there any, can you go to them and say, hey, these have to be off at night from such and
Well,
such
that
a
was
time?
that's what I attempted, but they said that they had been using them for safety purposes, that they had an incident where they felt like somebody was possibly casing the property, and that's why they keep them on all the time.
So I'm sure they
So, I
have
mean,
cameras, so the cameras can see at night without light. They don't need light for the cameras. So if it's bothering someone in town and they've complained, then can't we step up and say, look, you need to shut these off at a specific time. You're bothering other people who are trying to sleep.
yeah, I mean, I absolutely can. I think that they did note that other businesses have these lights as well. So if we do for one, and again, the regulations don't really speak to it. So that's why I'm here with it. I mean,
security
there's
lights that are made for this purpose, right?
Right, there are.
And
Yeah, motion. Yeah, there's motion lights. I think it's very festive and charming, but I know we've had other applications where we restricted lights at 9 o'clock at night, or 10 o'clock.
Yeah, for the Kent collection.
And
the Kent collection, we did that.
Yeah. So, and I think we also are of the tone or motion that we like our dark skies.
Yes.
So I think we have to be careful with that one.
Okay. I will go back to them and talk to them again about it. And then one other thing, just kind of a heads up, I guess. Donna and I had attended a Casio session, and it seems like there's a business in town that's getting a little close to this, is the cannabis regulations. So you might want to just take a look at it again and understand what you want for the town. Right now you have in your definition only that retail does not include cannabis stores. You don't have anything about farming or manufacturing, and just in the definition is kind of very light. There's a store in town that's doing more CBD stuff, but they're also doing hemp derived like THC stuff. So my understanding is that because it's coming from the hemp and not from bud, the state statute doesn't necessarily cover, that. So it doesn't fall under this. But again, it's circling around, it's getting a little bit closer, it's getting more popular. people are feeling more comfortable with these stores, and I'm not sure, you know, how the town feels about it, but you just don't want something unintentionally to happen. So, you know, you might want to just think, just a heads up to think about it.
Yeah, and Ty, to my understanding with THC in beverages, regardless of whether it's hemp or cannabis derived, and again, they're the same plant, they do need to have a state license to sell anything that's got THC infused beverages at this stage.
Got it. But our regulations don't necessarily speak to that at all.
That's state level regulation. So if you're selling a THC infused beverage without a license, you're operating illegally in the state. Those regulations went in July 1st. But any other product that's got CBD in it is fine, except under federal regulation where it is still illegal.
So, I mean, the meeting that Don and I went to, they were actually talking, you know, to all the different towns and the CEOs and how things are going with you know, the new businesses coming in, and has there been a lot of trouble, or how has it worked out? And I think, you know, most of the reports, I'm not trying to encourage it or discourage it, but I'm just reporting what we heard, is most of the reports were good. I mean, I think that they went around the room to the towns that had allowed it, and they all said that it's going fine, it's going well, no issues.
In this situation, if we're thinking of or charging ourselves with writing some new regulations, should we establish a subcommittee or a working group, or what is the process for doing this?
I mean, you might be comfortable with what you have right now. I'm not trying to, you know, make you dig into something you don't want to, but if you do want to, I mean, traditionally you guys would use Glenn, and then usually Mike Ziska reviews. Once you accept Glenn's work, then Mike Ziska will review that to make sure you know, it's legally sound, and can be defended. That's usually what you guys do.
Isn't that more about statutes than zoning?
Well, the statute enables, you know, enables it, but zoning is the one who can't, you know, you can say no, you know, altogether, or in a limited capacity. You could choose, you know, certain zones. I mean, that's up to each individual town to make that determination.
So we do have a low level coverage by definition, that the sale of cannabis is not a retail operation here in Kent, right?
That's right. So yeah, I mean, it's just, it's not, you know, it's an odd way. I don't want to say it's an odd way, but it's just in your definitions. It's not even a regulation. Like you said, it's a low level kind of coverage. I don't know if it could be, you know, challenged or.
Well, I think we have to consider it in terms of both retail and farming too, because it falls under sort of two jurisdictions.
Right, and manufacturing as well.
Manufacturing, yes, and potentially medical and pharmaceutical.
Yeah, so I mean, none of that is spoken to in your regulations. So, you know, I don't know.
I think we need to get some help on that from Glenn and Mike. Now, I remember when we put that into effect, it was really because of the concern of so many students and, you know, young people in town with the private schools and the ability to walk into town, etc. Not that that matters now, but I think we'd have to turn to them for help on this to make sure that we're complying with the statutes. And I don't know, it's a tricky situation.
Yeah, I mean, I really don't understand where you stand, honestly. I mean, I don't know how you feel that as a group. It seems like, yeah, like you said, at a low level, you kind of put a you know, like, let's for now not do this, but I'm not sure, now we're a little bit more into it, and I'm not sure what your thoughts are, and how your regulations will hold up as the businesses start to try to roll in more. There's, if somebody showed up and wanted to do like farming or manufacturing, and, it's really not even something that was spoken to.
Well, farming is one thing, but the sale of it, do you not think that by definition, the sale of cannabis is not a retail business, not classified as a retail use, is not somewhat effective?
I don't know. It seems very light.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can circle back to Mike and make sure that he feels okay with it. I mean, it actually references the Public Act, which has been, codified now. So it's not even a public, so it does seem like it's something that was just done at the time to get something on the books. If you're satisfied with it, I really am not trying to push you. I'm just trying to let you know what's going on in the world right now as far as that goes.
I think you're smart to steer us in that direction, Ty, because I remember at the time that we put that low level of, regulation, so to speak, it was because we didn't know what the state statutes were at that time. Right. So it was just a little way to try to put some protection on the line, but it's all changed. So.
And they continue to evolve too as we go along here.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think we should get on it. I mean, I think as a commission, we should be getting advice and looking at it. It's clearly heading everyone's way.
Now, is it still your position that you'd rather not have it as a retail?
That's my own personal approach, but
so I mean just so that I know if I'm going to approach Glenn or even Mike, I just want to let them know what your your direction is, so that they can.
So Ty, would we have a or Mike question?
So I mean, if you're saying that you're still under the feeling that you'd rather not have it as retail, I think I would just go to Mike and say, is what we have enough right now? And, and then I want to just understand, are you okay with manufacturing? Are you okay with the growing? I can ask them, should we have something about that as well? So whatever your direction is, that's what I'm going to go with. If you think that you want to, write, and then if Mike says that's not enough, I'll go to Glenn and say, Glenn, could you make us something a little bit stronger?
I think that's a good.
Yeah. Could I throw this out as an idea for the commissioners and Ty, whether there's a precedent for this, but because this is such a wide open issue, whether this is something we could get a survey or details from the townspeople from first before we sort of make a decision here one way or the other. Just so we can kind of get a current understanding of where the majority of people in Kent are, how they feel about this before we make any kind of recommendation.
Absolutely.
I think that's a great idea. I think that we have to hear from the other people in town. Yeah. I have a dumb question. Can anybody go in and buy? I know she sells drinks that have THC in them. Is there an age limit on that? I mean, can anybody go in?
Well, it 18, I think, or is it 21 in
21
to get a 21? Yeah.
21 for THC stuff.
Yeah, and I will say federally there is also a move to consider with THC based products to increase that to the age of 25 because the known impacts of THC on the developing brain. And for any of the commissioners here who aren't aware, I did serve as the executive director for the Council for Federal Cannabis Regulation down in DC. So I've been dealing with this for a number of years at the federal level.
Can I make a comment? I think
Of course.
there's a new portion to that July that now allows liquor stores to
Yeah.
sell THC infused.
If they
So-
have a license, they still have to get a special license.
Exactly, that I know, but that was never the case before, and that's what changed. One of the major changes that took place in July 1st was the fact that now liquor stores, so you know, you might get some pushback from IRA. I don't know. You know,
The
when
liquor
it
store
comes to,
lobbyists jumped right on that, didn't they?
Yeah. Regardless, I think the person who's selling THC infused beverages does need a cease and desist on that one, because or I don't know if that comes necessarily from us or the health inspector or whoever. But
Oh, you mean at a state level? So, I mean, in my conversations and research with them, my understanding was because the THC came from the hemp and not the bud, so that's not accurate.
still a psychoactive.
So you're
component.
saying, I'm sorry?
It's still a psychoactive component, so it's a psychoactive chemical. THC.
So
is
it's subject,
psychoactive.
so it's subject to the state cannabis
As far
law?
as I,
Oh,
yeah.
interesting. All
Yeah.
right. Well, maybe
Because once
maybe
it's
I'll check
approved,
with Mike on that as well, because it seems that's a little bit, it's confusing, but
Yeah.
I'll figure it out.
But I think either way, you still need the state license for it. If it's got
No
THC,
doubt.
regardless of how
I
it's
agree with that.
derived.
Right. I agree with that. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
What was explained to me was that if it came from the hemp and not the bud, then the state statute
Hemp
would
is
not
considered non-psychoactive because the amount of THC in it is below the arbitrary limit of 0.03%, which is considered non-psychoactive. But once you turn it into THC, which it goes through a process of decarboxylation, I think that's what it's called, you're heating it up, so the THC is reactivated in it, so it will still get you high.
I totally understand that. The actual state requirement always refers to cannabis, though. So the definition of cannabis, as it was explained to me, was from the bud and not the hemp. So that was where that little like weird, and again, that's why this conversation, I was saying, you know, it sounds like there's lots of weird loopholes going on here, and it's getting to be a little bit scary, like something unintentional could happen, you know. So I totally agree. We need to at least seek a better understanding.
Perhaps, yeah, and I think you're, and I could always be wrong too. Because it varies state by state, and everybody's got a different interpretation of it. So I will state that I could very well be wrong. But I think to get some feedback from the state on this would be wise on our, and then reminding everybody here too that at the federal level, it's still illegal across the board. So, and if we have a change of administration, you don't know how that's going to impact both growers, retailers, and consumers.
Okay, so Ty, you'll approach Mike on this question.
Absolutely. I'll approach Mike. I will work on a survey for the town and report back next month.
Terrific, terrific.
Have you received any pushback, Ty, from anybody in town?
About the new business?
Yeah.
No. They weren't terribly forthcoming when they submitted their application. It was to sell crayons retail, and their description was, you know, crayons and miscellaneous other stuff. So only later found out, you know, what they were actually, you know. So I keep telling everybody to go get their crayons there. School supply. But as far as there hasn't been anybody, you know, really complaining about them.
If I can make one other quick thought on this, when it does come to agricultural hemp, hemp has a lot of uses outside of just cannabis. So you can make hempcrete out of it. You can make clothing out of it. It really is an amazing material. And historically, New England has been a major producer of hemp up until the 1900s. So in terms of the agricultural uses of it, we really do want to kind of take a look at it as a diversified agricultural property, and you know, sort of put the bucket of things that get you high over here versus things that are really good growing material over here, and perhaps bring that to light within the discussions as we go out with people in the town.
The best rope in the world was made from hemp.
Yeah. All right, so moving on, paragraph 9, administrative permits and certificates. Any comment on that?
I don't know if this is the appropriate part of the meeting to ask this, but what's all the clearing going on up on Carter Road next to High Watch?
There's a new house going in up on Carter Road. It's kind of on the corner of Fred Hosterman's property, I think. You know how there's a little corner, is that where you're talking about?
Is Fred's house on the same side as High Watch or on the other side?
I think Donna can help. She
Yeah.
knows that road like the back of her hand.
Yeah, it's kind of in the corner of Fred. So you're almost up on top of the hump where you can actually see into Sharon. So it's not that close to High Watch, but it's just this little tiny piece of property that had been cut off and given to a family member. And now they're deciding to build on it. It's very
okay. So it has nothing to do with High Watch.
No.
If that's
it's on
what
the
you're
other side
talking
of the
about.
river.
Is that what you're referring to, Anne?
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
thank you.
Yeah, as long as it goes over that the Kent Falls Brook, then you're outside of High Watch at that point in time.
Okay.
All right, 9B. We do have an ARB resignation situation.
I think, yeah. So Pete Hanby, the architect on the ARB, you're required to have a certified architect, landscape architect, or a planner on that board. And Pete, who has served as the member as that certified person, is resigning. So his resignation is, you know, his email saying that he'd like to resign was in your packet. So it's really important that we get somebody to fill his space, because I don't think that we can continue on. In his message, you know, to me, it seemed like, you know, the last meeting really was the last one he wanted to serve at. And we're kind of in a situation where we need somebody else to step in. I did check in with the ARB, and there are no other members as far as I know. You know, I kind of just said, hey, this is what's happening. Are any of you certified in this? And I got no responses on that. So
Ty, I was thinking, and we need to find somebody for sure. I've got an idea for someone who's a landscape architect, but I haven't approached them. Can we get somebody as a substitute temporarily in there, either as a volunteer or a hire? I don't know.
So like,
not a board member, but somebody just to sit on the meeting. Because
Glenn is actually a planner, a certified planner, you know, so obviously, you know, we could, I don't know how appropriate it is, but we could ask him to be that person. Your regulations allow for two things. You can have just a sole person to, you know, a sole certified architect or planner or whatever and not have a board. And have this like paid consultant to review all your ARB applications. Or you could have this board, and you opted for the board, it seems, but you have two paths in your regulations. So you have this board established, and I don't know that you want to disassemble a board, but it does allow you for it to have like, you know, a consultant, like paid consultant as well. So I don't know if that Glenn comes to mind to me because he's worked for you before. He understands the regulations, and I don't know if he'd be willing, but you know, we don't have a ton, you know, it goes through spurts with ARB. Sometimes we don't have any meetings at all for a couple months, and then we get a bunch of people, you know, coming in the village that are doing, you know, work, and it needs to be reviewed. You know, the library was a big thing that rarely happens. It's usually tiny little, you know, adjustments here and there. So, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I think that's a good suggestion with Glenn, if he would be willing, not as a permanent situation, but as because I don't think we can function beyond.
That's my concern, is that, I mean, I don't have any applications right now, but if something rolls in, and what are we going to do? You know, how are we going to hold up somebody that way? Also, just to note that your regulations say that the majority of the board has to be from Kent residents, but it doesn't have to be, you know, and everybody who's on it right now is. So if you did happen to find somebody from outside of town that was willing to serve, that would be fine too.
Well, could we have Glenn pitch hit until we could find someone? And another idea might be to get some, I don't know where, publicity that we're looking for this type of skill for our ARB board.
We can send out an email blast, post it on the town's website. Your pleasure is, and I can, if Wes has somebody in mind and he wants to first, I don't know.
We had an applicant last month who was an architect to build a house in Kent.
Yeah. I bet you there's somebody in the community already that we just don't know about.
It could be. Yeah.
All right, so the plan is to do an email blast and post it on the website, and also reach out to Glenn to have him as a standby until we can get somebody in place.
If it would
if
help,
Glenn is willing.
If he's willing, and only temporarily, to pinch hit. Yeah. And it's Zoom, right? So it's not.
Yeah. Zoom, and they're very short meetings usually. You know, they're not hours long,
right,
unless there's a giant project.
Okay, so that's what you'll reach out to Glenn, and we'll see about
getting it out there,
posting it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, then 9C, we have this letter. Has everyone read the letter? We got from a neighbor at Camp Kim, a neighbor of Camp Kinmont. It was only a matter of time, right? Yeah. But the camp did change hands, so I mean it is in new hands. People don't like change. They're not in violation of anything, Ty, that you know of, right?
No, I don't think they're in violation, but your camp regulations are very much based on getting, you know, the new ones that are in place more recently are very much based on getting along in the neighborhood. I know it was a lot about Club Getaway, but this applies as well. So, you know, any additions to the camp, any special permits, you know, those kind of things are based on, making sure that the neighbors are, happy with, the situation there as well, and not feeling
Right.
disturbed.
Right.
Yeah, but you're right. They're not, it's not in violation of anything that we have here.
So in terms of their statement of use, she said in this letter that they are extending the period that the camp is used. I don't know if that's true or not true.
So if you remember during the new camp regulation creation, a statement of use was submitted as a baseline.
Right.
And I do have that here, and I mean, I can read it to you, but it's not, it doesn't really speak to that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, it's our charge to hear these things and to sort through them. Brad, do you have any response to this?
Yes, and thank you for your time, and honestly, apologies for your time. We're good stewards. Yes, it changed hands, but it actually my mother-in-law and wife's aunt went to Kenwood in the 60s, so I feel like we're new but old. And I'm one of the owners, and we've been stewards of the community. We host the Lake Association any chance we get. We attend the Lake Association. We pay the fees. We have an amazing relationship with all members of the Lake Association. This one resident has consistently complained to me since we took over, and I've tried numerous times to go out of my way, because we want to be the stewards of the community. We want to be nice to our neighbors. We need our neighbors. We love our neighbors. And I'll tell you, frankly, most of our neighbors love us too, because they knew what they were getting into. They moved, onto a lake where a camp's been for 100 years. Our neighbors also like us because we're the only boat landing, and we get all of their boats and docks in, and we always try to help in any way we can. We host the fireworks. We try to host as many things as possible, quite frankly. And same thing goes with, the Kent Volunteer Fire Department and the like. Anything we can do for the community, we try to do. This one neighbor literally every summer has called me numerous times, and I'm responsible, along with my co-director and our staff, for the safety of, about 500 kids and 250 counselors. And it's at points, not to be hyperbolic, has kind of hinged on harassment of just nonstop complaining. And I get it, you always want peace where you live, but we're an operation that's been around for 100 years. The water ski boats, unfortunately, Lloyd's no longer here, but I would, tell Lloyd about the complaints, and he said, we've had water ski boats forever. We're not trying to do anything out of the norm. I wasn't aware of any kind of set policy and not using on Sundays. So we had used it one Sunday, a Sunday or two, and then Joey, the Lake Association president, asked us not to do it, and we stopped immediately, because I understood that, whether, like, it wasn't a legality, but if our neighbors asked us not to do it, we were going to assuage them and do something nice. The flip side of that is, we are still a business. We still have to run, and we still have to make sure, our kids get to use the activities. And in order for the business to operate, we have to operate as we have for the last 100 years. So, I'm trying to not get aggravated by it, because, I know the day that this letter, the impetus behind this letter is every other year I've kind of called her and assuaged her and said, and we talked it out, and I've always tried to make fixes. On this one time, she had called our camp office, and she was complaining about noise, but it was literally it was 2:15 in the afternoon, and we were doing a fire/active shooter drill, which there was no noise, no shooting. It was just us on a megaphone saying, if there's an emergency and you hear this air horn once, get to cover. That was, and it lasted all of 15 minutes, and she called to complain about it. And, we take safety very seriously, especially because we're a child care facility. and it was 2:15 in the afternoon, and we're using a speaker. I'll have you know, like, we have a PA system on our camp that we use very sparingly. And they used to blast music all the time, but we try not to annoy our neighbors in any way. And so it really got me upset that this latest complaint was really probably triggered by the fact that we were hosting a fire drill, and I didn't call her back to kind of apologize.
Well, I can sense your pain. Yeah. Well, I mean, from our standpoint, we have to look if there's any violations, if there doesn't.
And for the record, this is the first complaint in the file. So, you know, if she had been complaining before, there's never been any record of a complaint from her or anybody else in the actual file.
And pardon me, like, she's a lovely woman. Her daughter Emma helps run the Lake Association. We like them. There's no, like, we want to like all of our neighbors. If I came off as kind of harsh, I don't mean to. It's frustration, and I apologize. But they're lovely. We want to be good stewards. We want to be good neighbors. You know, if you want me to address everything in the letter, I can. Some of it's factual, some of it's not true. But I don't think I don't think she just understood part of it. But let me know if not. I don't want to take up too much of your time, kind of, you know, in a cathartic manner.
Can you talk about item 6?
Sorry.
Item 6. What?
Oh, the other two things I didn't mention, we also, in addition to participating in the Lake Association meetings, we also give a calendar of when camp's going to be more active and noisier, and when traffic's more active. We also do that, you know, we knew that our 1,000 years coming up, so we did that with the town as well. 6. Oh, that is, yeah, we provided the calendar.
Okay, she says you didn't. You stopped.
I can, if you want, I can pull up. I emailed it to her daughter and the whole Lake Association. I can pull up the email if you let me screen share. If you want me to,
No, if you say that you're still providing a calendar, then you are. It's a conflict with what she's saying. So.
All right. So, Ty, you think we need to discuss this any further?
No, I think you're aware of it, and you know, you can make your own. I mean, right now it's not a zoning violation. It's just, you know, something that's going to go in the file, and it seems like we're going to have a record as to the explanation as well now in the file. So, you know.
Could I just address my fear is that because I've seen it escalate from calling me nonstop to now writing a letter to the town, that I anticipate it's not going to just stop, because we're not going to cease operating as a business. You know, my family wouldn't be happy about it, but the families we serve and the community we serve would not be happy about that either. And I think we offer something really beautiful for the community and for children. I'm just afraid that it's going to keep on happening and hinder. And if there's any advice, I'm telling you, I spoke with Joey Yazur at length about this, because he could tell it was keeping me up at night, because we don't want to upset the community in any way. So if there's any advice the commission can offer, anything we can do, you know, we still need to operate in our hours, but we, again, outside of, I'll hear any advice, because we really want to make sure that we're in good standing with the community.
Just keep the kids happy. And they are happy. I can see, yeah.
Well, I think you got to try for some harmony a little bit with the neighbors. I mean, you have been there a long time, and it's a wonderful camp and very well regarded, but it sounds to me, and I don't know her, that maybe this lady has lived there a long time also. And is there anything that you could see where you could change hourly the use of the lake so it's not so noisy? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. Like
No.
you're out there 6 days a week. I can't tell from the letter, but do you run these boats at night?
No. No, so
Okay,
our last activity period
it's 5.
ends at 5:40.
Yeah, okay.
Anything outside, like there was at one point we did and we stopped doing it. We used to do like the kids, but again, that wouldn't be allowed, like a sunset sail, because it's cute, not like motorsports, just around the lake because it's
Right.
golden hour and it's gorgeous. But we haven't even done that. I don't think in the last few years.
Okay. Now, I have a crazy question. What is a banana boat?
It's like a tube that holds 8 kids, so you sit 2, 2, 2, and 2.
Oh, okay, cool.
Kind of looks like a banana.
Gotcha. I never heard of it. I was like, what?
It actually goes a lot slower because of it feels like it's going faster, but it goes a lot slower than the actual tubing or the wakeboarding or the skiing. Because if they actually went at speed, it would flip.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, I mean, I think if you could find any way to, I don't know what, stop some of the noise or shorten the hours.
Can you keep the kids from squealing?
No.
Brad,
No,
how
to
many
Karen's point, oh, sorry.
how many motorboats do you have?
We have 4. Frankly, we try to only operate 3, just to keep a portion of the lake really open to our neighbors. We're typically the only ones on the lake. But for instance, Joey's son-in-law is training for a triathlon. God bless him because I can't. And he was swimming around, so we changed our boat path for the days he wanted to swim. Like we're in communication with our neighbors. Anytime they want to put a boat in, anytime they want us to move, we really do our best to kind of stay out of their way because we know we're dominating the lake. We're not naive, and I would never, claim that we're not because we're getting the most use out of the lake.
So I would say if this letter came from the association, that has a different view.
Or if we had more letters, more complaints.
Right.
I agree.
Do you notice that the birds are disappearing and that the fish are disappearing also?
No, we still catch plenty of fish. The beaver still comes back though, and we've had some issues with trees, and there's a beaver dam by where Lloyd's property used to be, but that's a whole nother issue.
All right, so I think we can file this and I'm sure, Brad, that you'll do what you can to do everything you can to make peace. I believe that.
No, we will, and thank you. Look, I'm embarrassed that I have to kind of come on and defend, and I promise you we'll continue to try, and we want our neighbors to like us. They also keep our kids safe too, so it's we want that.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks all.
All right, so looks like we have reached that time in the meeting that we could call for an adjournment. If somebody would like to do it. Or not, we could stay here.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Chris.
I'll second that.
All right, Karen.
I'm hungry, I want dinner.
All right, you all. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Take care.